like it. What did Joan Bennett say? The older you grow, the worse you get. I'm fully formed. I'm 6'6", and I'm Alan K. Rohde, and I'm here to introduce Sorry Wrong Number, year 24 for this festival. And thank you for having me. I was thinking, listening to Eddie's introduction, and how long this has gone on, and remembering. You know, in the end, all we have left is our memories when you get to the end of the line, and the people that we had at the festival, particularly in the early days, Ricardo Montalban, Jack Palance, Evelyn Keyes, Audrey Totter, Ann Savage, Colleen Gray, all of these people, and you know, getting to ask Jack Palance, so what was it like working with Joan Crawford in Sudden Fear? And he put his head back, and he still looked like Jack, and you saw this little smile working, and he went, well, let's just say Joan was a consummate actress, and we'll leave it at that. So, at any rate, that has nothing to do with our movie. Our movie is Sorry Wrong Number, and as Eddie mentioned at the top, it was released in September 1948, and we have 24 films that Eddie and I programmed, all from 1948, the 75th year, kind of the epicenter of noir, 1948. The principals, the producer, first and foremost, is Hal B. Wallace, who is really, for my money, one of the greatest producers ever in Hollywood. He spent many years at Warner Brothers with Michael Curtiz, and all of those films, Casablanca, Yankee Doodle Dandy, all of those films, Wallace had a hand in, and he was really a hands-on producer. He finally left after having a falling out with Jack Warner, as anyone who worked at Warner Brothers inevitably did, which coincided with when Hal Wallace, when Casablanca won the Academy Award at the Oscars in 1944. Wallace went up to accept his Oscar, and he was sitting in the row with the Warner family, and they stuck their legs out and blocked him so Jack Warner could run up and take the Oscar that belonged to Hal Wallace. And so that was, he left, he set up shop at Paramount as an independent producer where he made whatever films he wanted, split the cost with Paramount, he gave them the negative, and he was allowed to make whatever films he wanted. And so he did, and he made films like I Walk Alone, which we'll be showing, I believe, on Monday, So Evil, My Love, The Strange Love of Martha Ivers, and so forth, with the great Barbara Stanwyck. What's interesting, one of the many interesting things about this film is that he split, you'll see he shared the production credit with Anatoly Litvak, Tola Litvak, a great director. But Tola was also a very smart guy, Ukrainian, born in Kiev in, I think, 1902, and he bought Lucille Fletcher's play, Sorry Wrong Number. So Wallace, the play radio play was a hit. It was a 20-minute radio play starring Agnes Moorehead by Lucille Fletcher. And so Wallace was compelled to sign Litvak to a personal services contract and give him that co-producer credit. And Wallace didn't like to share credit with anybody, but in this case he had to. Litvak, a very accomplished director, very, very tough on actors, although he was not tough on Barbara Stanwyck because she was tougher than anybody. Litvak, I think James Cagney, when he got interviewed by his biographer, John McCabe, and he talked about making City for Conquest for Litvak at Warner Brothers and how tough he was, where he was much more focused on the cameras and treated the actors more or less like props. And he said, you know, some people in life are just natural-born assholes, and Tola was one of them. And Jimmy Cagney did not have much use for directors anyway. He really directed himself. Barbara Stanwyck. This is Barbara Stanwyck's 4th nomination for Best Actress, and she still didn't get it. She got a special Oscar near the end of her life in 1982, but she was nominated for Stella Dallas, Ball of Fire, Double Indemnity, and this picture here. This was a huge hit. It was made for about $1.5 million, and it doubled that on the ticket gross, largely due to Stanwyck. And of course, Stanwyck was such a great star. her salary of $125,000 was the biggest expenditure in the picture. The part she plays was based on the radio play, and it's really based on someone named Marjorie Netherware, who is known as the cough drop queen. So there's some of this taken from real life. Lucille Fletcher wrote this one-woman play, and she wrote the screenplay, which she said was the worst summer of my life, trying to turn a 20-minute radio play with Agnes Moorehead into a full-fledged movie with flashbacks and so on and so forth. Very, very difficult. Agnes Moorehead is great. For those of you who follow me on Facebook, I recently posted a 1986 sign that someone painted on Vine Street in a garage that says, "Agnes Moorehead is God." Now, I wouldn't go quite that far, but the notion that Agnes Moorehead, as a great character actress, could carry a picture like this for 80 minutes, that wasn't going to happen. And so while she is deserving for a lot of kudos, Hal Wallis did the right thing by casting Barbara Stanwyck in the film. You've also got Burt Lancaster. And Burt is, I was lucky enough to be friends with a guy named Mickey Knox, who Hal Wallis set up and had a stable of actors. Wendell Corey was in this film, a number of actors, including Burt Lancaster, Kirk Douglas, and Mickey. And Burt had a novel way of renegotiating his contract to get more money, because he did get some independent films from Wallis, which is why he signed with him. But at one point, his popularity after The Killers outstripped his contract. Wallis said, "Well, you got a contract, I won't renegotiate." And Mickey, who was there, said, Burt said to him, "So suppose I could throw you out the fucking window, and would you renegotiate the contract then?" And guess what? Hal Wallis renegotiated Burt's contract for him. True story, true story. A lot of good actors in this. Ed Begley, the great Ed Begley, who plays Barbara's father. Jimmy Hunt, who's Leif Erikson's kid again from Invaders from Mars. He played it before. Jimmy's still with us. And you'll see a lot of New York in this house that Barbara Stanwyck is basically shut-in with, and a lot of flashbacks. In this, you'll see in the distance the Queensboro or the 59th Street Bridge in New York. And I used to go visit my grandparents in Queens with my family. We drove across that bridge every weekend. And this was on Sutton Place, and you'll hear or see the old elevated train that was still running in New York, I think on 3rd Avenue at that time. And then this house that Lucille Fletcher said was inspired, she and her husband at the time, Bernard Herrmann, the great composer, rented a house from John Hersey, who wrote Hiroshima and many other things, for a summer. And she said this house with all these winding stairs, when you see the house, you're wondering, why would someone that's an invalid live in a house like this? You know, it's really wild. But it's a great movie, beautifully photographed by the director of photography, Saul Polito, who was Mike Curtiz's right-hand man at Warner Brothers and did all those great films like The Adventures of Robin Hood and The Sea Wolf and Dodge City and so forth. And Wallis was really a master at taking the people he worked with at Warner Brothers and bringing them over to his production company to make this. So this is a really, really enjoyable film, and it has a lot about the telephone in this, for obvious reasons that I won't give away the plot. But one thing that always struck me in watching this movie now is that regardless of how screwed up the phone lines got back in 1947 and 48, you could get a hold of a human being instead of a firewall. So at any rate, it's going to be great to be with, I hope, all of you for the rest of the week. And we've got some exciting shows coming up. On Tuesday, Cry of the City with Victoria Mature and Tommy Cook, who is in the movie, who's 93 years old, will be here Tuesday night. So you don't want to miss that. But for now, enjoy Barbara Stanwyck and her Oscar-nominated performance, Sorry, Wrong Number. Thank you.